Welcome back to the Quilt Shop. Today we're here to give you some pointers on a piece of equipment that probably, if it had not been invented, I may have never become a quilter and I may have never become a quilting teacher. We're talking about the rotary cutter. Annie is showing you here what Olfa developed in 1979 was the first time we had a rotary cutter, and it was from the Olfa Corporation. We have different sizes. I'm going to show you the one that I use most frequently when I do quilt making. We have one here in the corner that looks a little strange, and that is a new, kind of new, newer than Olfa on the market, and that is a Martelli. Has a different shape to it, has a whole different way of holding it so that you're supposed to be much more ergonomic, maybe have a better time of not using blades. Comes in left-handed, right-handed, and he also has a dynamite mat that's actually made of AstroTurf, which is double-sided, lines on both sides. Once you purchase this, you shouldn't have to purchase one the rest of your life unless you stick it in a hot car or something. Okay, before we actually start showing you how to cut, I wanted to show you something, a little bit of maintenance with your rotary cutter. So my assistant will dial us down to the mat. Okay, this is my rotary cutter that we use here a lot at the store, and people ask me a lot, you know, how often do you change the blades? And more than that, they ask me how to change the blade. So you can keep this little video as a reference on how to change a basic Olfa blade. I'm going to show you two different kinds of cutters here. These are both Olfa. These are both 45 millimeter. This is the one that I prefer. I'm a left-handed quilter, and I can put it in my left hand, look at my blade, come down and cut. I can put it in my right hand, open it up, put it down and cut. This one came out as a safety type of rotary cutter from Olfa. If you'll notice, when I open this up, it stays open. So I have to make sure that I close it before I put it down. With this one, it has a safety latch so that when you close it, put that latch on. If it falls, it's not going to hurt you, because that blade is definitely something that could. Notice that on the other side, okay, we have an area that looks like it's for another blade. So if you purchase this type, this is for the right-handed people. And if you're left-handed, then you'd want to put it over on this side. So because I switch back and forth a lot, being a lefty, I like this one because I don't have to keep switching the blade out. So how do you change a blade? Okay, I changed this blade. I'm not actually going to put a new one in here, but I'm going to take apart the parts so you can see how you take it apart. And if you see any dust or lint going on anywhere inside here, which there is some in here right now, okay, just try to get all of that off. Make sure there's no dust or lint on your blade. And Olfa actually puts their name on the top of a blade, so when you actually go to put a new blade in, okay, you should be able to read Olfa. Again, check for more dust. Put this big guy down. Hold your finger. Turn it over. Put this little fella back down there. Screw this back on tightly. Not so tight that it's hard to open and close the rotary cutter. Okay, but you want it kind of tight. So proper etiquette with this particular one, so that you don't hurt yourself or somebody else, is you pick it up, open it up, cut with it, close it, and then put it down. Today's lesson is going to show you how you actually can sew a series of 2-inch squares together. If Grandma was doing this back in the 1800s, she would take a piece of cardboard, cut a 2-inch square, and put it down on her fabric, trace around it, and cut them out with their scissors. What we do, thank heavens to Olfa, is we're actually going to do what's called strip piecing. We're going to cut some strips, cut them apart, and make 2-inch squares that are sewn together. I'm going to use our Harmony quilt as an example. There are hundreds of 2-inch squares in the Harmony blocks. You can see a bunch of them right here. Now, when they sew back to 1.5. This is going to be a 9-inch square. It's supposed to, if I've done this right. But look at all these little squares that you see in here. I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to create them. We talked about your kit parts, okay, in the first video. They could be filled either with, your kit could have fat quarters, okay, or it could have what are called fat eighths, which are, this one is 9 inches, and then it's slid up the fold, so you have 9 by 21 approximately. A fat quarter is 18 inches, a half yard, slid up the fold, and then creating a fat quarter, okay? So if you were cutting these on your mat, I'm just going to do a quick test of cutting on your mat. I like to fold whatever it is I'm cutting in half. I don't like to go 4 times, because sometimes if you make a mistake, you've then made a mistake 4 times. But also because you just get a nice straighter flat surface if you're only cutting over 2. Now you can't just purchase a rotary cutter and be a quilter. There are 3 things that have to go together: my rotary cutter, a nice ruler for the rotary cutter, and a protective mat for the rotary cutter. We talked about rulers on the first day, because a lot of these little pieces that are in your kit are much friendlier if you have a little bit smaller ruler. I'm a lefty. I'm going to do this demo today as if I was a right-handed person, since most of you watching probably are. If you put the fabric off to the right, because you are right-handed, with the fold at the bottom, and most importantly, just pretend for today that there are no lines on this mat, okay? We try to cut these evenly, but sometimes I don't. Now this one was just used recently, so it's pretty even. So if you put your ruler either directly across the fold, or in this case you can even bring it down an inch and put the 1-inch line right there on the fold. Okay, and what you're going to do is ease off just the least little bit so that you can make an even cut. Now, how was I holding that blade? You want to go at a 45-degree angle to the mat, perpendicular, with your finger. There's a serrated edge, your finger on top. I see the blade. Okay, if I was over here doing this and I don't see the blade, that's wrong. I have to turn this around, okay, so I see the blade. So I now have a nice straight edge. Again, pretend there's no lines on the mat. I'm going to come over here because I want to create a 2-inch. We're ultimately going to do what would have been 2-inch squares. I hide the edge of the fabric underneath the black line on the ruler. Start off the edge of the ruler, 45-degree angle. Now I'm holding on pretty good to that mat, or to that ruler, but sometimes they can slip. So what you want to purchase are some of these little sandpaper circles, so that when you do your rulers, that they absolutely have no slipping going on, because that creates inaccuracy where you have to start all over again with a square up. Okay, so if you cut for block number 4 in the Harmony quilt, if you sew a strip, these 2 strips together and these 2 strips together, and then you turn them, and again, take one of your other little rulers, or you could take the same one that you had. See how uneven that is. Just even that up. Cut again on the 2. Hiding 1, 2, hiding my fabric underneath. Now you have a bunch of pairs of 2-inch squares without ever really having to cut a 2-inch square. What ultimately happens for block number 4 is that you have these 4 patches in the corners. So you lay this one and you lay this one, and now you're ready to pick these up and sew in between them. I'll show that down here again. This one and this one. Fold these over. Okay, I have also pressed the seam on each one of the pairs to the dark fabric. This one's pressed this way, this one's pressed this way. So that what happens is they nestle into each other, and we call that big scientific name, opposing seams. Okay, once you sew that and you open it up, you get something that looks like this. And what I've done also is, as you open it up, you can spread these out like so that you don't have a lot of bulk going on here. It's a neat little trick. Now they end up at that point not pressing to the dark anymore, but you have a nice flat surface when you go to add this together. So in month 4, you do have 4 patches that you can end up making, and you have sewn these 4 patches. They are, if you take your 3.5-inch ruler, you can actually lay it down on here and see that they are exactly 3.5 inches, and you've never really had to create, 2-inch squares sewn to 2-inch squares. Here we go. Here it is. So that is exactly 3.5 and ready to go into block 4. And block 2 and block 1 do the same thing. We make the same type of squares. And I think that's it. Thank you so for watching. Bye-bye.